Clubhouse, remember them? The audio-only social app that surged in popularity early in the pandemic is focusing more on smaller private groups, its chief executive officer Paul Davidson said Thursday. While Clubhouse initially grabbed headlines in 2020 with rapid-fire venture fundraising and appearances from celebrities such as Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey, the startup failed to maintain its rapid growth. Clubhouse laid off employees this summer and has experimented with shifting its strategy. Now, the once hot app for public speaking is focused on cultivating online communities that are more intimate. Well, is that going to work? Joining us to discuss further is the Alpha Africa Advisory CEO, Sanyade Okoli. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you. I think we should start with Uber. I want to start with Uber. The targeted ads, is their profit drive, does it supersede your privacy?
It should not supersede my privacy, absolutely not. Personally, I do not like it.
Okay.
I think that I've come to associate adverts being pushed to me when I don't pay for a service. Okay. So I think, okay, I understand the business has to make money, there has to be some revenue model, and if I'm not paying some kind of subscription, then advertising in all likelihood is how they're making the money to be able to sustain the service.
Right.
But for Uber, I pay for the service. Every time I do a trip, Uber does not drop me up and say, thank you, right. You're not being charged. Right. They charge me. So I don't see why they need to also push unwanted ads at me. Having said that, I know that they will be giving the option to opt out, and clearly I think you know what I will be doing.
Right. You will be opting out. Okay, so privacy aside, which, if you just the model alone of targeted specific ads, does that, for example, I don't know, if you're taking a trip to the mall or the shopping mall, or I don't know, going to buy a pizza or something, and then you get an ad for ice cream, which, does that make sense?
It holds no attraction whatsoever to me. If I'm already having to spend money on pizza, I really should not have to be tempted with ice cream, personally.
Okay.
I think we're all dealing with information overload.
Yeah.
We already have so much being pushed at us.
Yeah.
And I really don't need that being pushed at me when I'm sitting in the car trying to track a trip or trying to find. And to be honest, I think I would be very irritated if I'm trying to look for a driver, and before I can work out where the driver is, I have to sit through something. No, right. It's not going to work for me.
Okay, so let's invert this though. If we invert this, because we're being tracked, right? I'm sure my phone is listening to what I'm saying right now. But in the case of safety, someone goes lost, someone goes missing, or God forbid, kidnapped, and so on. Can we flip the argument on its head that tracking can lead to finding a person, or all these with tech and where it is now?
You started by saying we're being tracked. We're already being tracked by so many other people. Right. Our mobile phone company knows where we are. So we don't need Uber to track us as well. If in the case of an emergency, there's so many other service providers you can go and contact to get the necessary information.
You are completely against this. You are not a fan of targeted ads. Hugo Boss and Adobe, what do you make of, I guess, 3D designs and what it means for the fashion industry?
Now, on that one, I know
you support that?
Yeah, I know some people are cynical.
Yeah.
I think the first thing is, it's really about how it is implemented and how it is used.
Yeah.
But what I personally see value in is that, I'm not sure if it's the same for men, but for women, there's an issue of always having, trying outfits, especially when you think that people of different races often have different shapes. And I know I'm generalizing.
Of course.
But the African woman is generally shaped differently from the European woman.
Yep.
And Hugo Boss, in all likelihood, designs for sort of a more Western figure. So if they have the technology where I can do virtual trying of clothes, based on my physique, I see tremendous value in that. But of course, I don't want to pay for that because I believe I'll be buying their clothes. But maybe I'm just a cheapskate.
Fair enough. No, you're certainly not. You're a CEO of a big company. What about remote jobs? Can we see a fashion designer in Sokoto or Akwa Ibom designing stuff remotely using this tech for Hugo Boss all the way in Europe?
I must admit, I don't see how the 3D aspect changes that.
Okay.
I think well, obviously, I clearly haven't worked in a fashion design house.
Right.
But because we already work remotely anyway, I'm not sure that this would move the needle on that.
Okay. This conversation we're having right now, as far as 3D designs, is this a developed economy conversation? And do we need to catch up where we are in developing nations? To that level.
You and I know that we may not have all the underpinning infrastructure, but when it comes to technology, we're pushing.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I don't see it as just for developed markets. We have the internet, and we have the skills and the innovation, etc. So I think that we can certainly play effectively.
It's a Clubhouse. You familiar with Clubhouse?
Vaguely, I was invited and I joined one, and it didn't. Let's just say it didn't grab me, but I'm sure that there are people that it worked with.
Okay. What do you make of this new strategy to where they want to have more intimate conversations between users, as opposed to what is on Twitter Spaces and even on WhatsApp now? You can do a conference call and so on and so forth.
Well, if we look at it, you just mentioned Spaces, right? You've had other guys come in and eat their lunch, and they're looking for how they're going to distinguish themselves, so they can try. I am not certain, though, how that differs from my WhatsApp group, where I can just press that button at the top and already have a virtual conversation with all the people in the room. So I'm yet to understand what makes that value proposition special.
See, so that's why I like throwing these things at you. And you have a polite way of saying that some of these ideas don't work. But you said eating. Well, I already said stealing. Eating their lunch. If we look at what Twitter has done by just Spaces, and WhatsApp is owned by Meta, formerly Facebook. They've got that. Did they steal? Is that what I mean? Disruption has been the word. That's the thing. Clubhouse was disrupted, but is that just a polite way of saying that idea was ripped off, stolen?
Well, unless they stole the code behind it, I would say the analogy that comes to mind is that when Man United takes the ball from an Arsenal player, is that stealing or is that playing football?
It's playing football. It's a competitive space.
That's what I think.
A great example, because I am a Manchester United fan.
So good thing I didn't say the other way.
Yes, exactly. And they beat Tottenham 2-0 the other day. But look, so as far as disruption, though, what would you advise for a company that's coming up with a business model? Is the lesson here, using Clubhouse as an example, that you can't just have one strategy or one single business model? You have to be able to be flexible and diversify in case what happens to them.
You need to keep running. You need to keep innovating and innovating. You cannot just stay there, because you launch, but you know that these big guys are going to come at you, and you need to, literally, it's like you're in the playground and there's a bully, no disrespect to the Twitters, but bigger guys, and you just need to keep running and running and running and dodging and avoiding being caught.
And in fact, to that point, just final question, for a lot of these tech founders, some of them don't go to higher institutions of learning. They don't go to college. They just have an idea. Does this make the case that you should probably go through those channels to be able to learn alternatives to your strategies? Or is the advice that if you're young and you just have an idea, just jump in there, and if you get disrupted, you do. If you don't,
I'd say you can either go to higher education or not. If you don't, hire the likes of me, because I can help you.
There you go.
You can hire in the talent, you can hire in the experience, the knowledge, etc.
So Alpha African Advisor is disruption proof. You can teach that.
Well, I wouldn't be so bold, but we're running.
Gotcha. Look, it's always a pleasure having you. Alpha African Advisor CEO Sanyade Okoli, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.